If you're building an AI app, well-designed, good user base, definitely you can sell it really fast. There are some roll-ups companies that are basically buying almost everything, and after 1 month, he doubled the profit, and then we sold it for $600,000, app that was only around 4 months on the store.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are here with the man himself, absolute legend of the app space. If you've been watching the channel, if you've been following my journey, you will know that my previous mobile app that I scaled to 44K MRR, it was Puff Count. We sold the business successfully, and that is all thanks to the man here on the call with me. His name is Orel from OEB Digital. He helped me get through the exit of Puff Count from stage 1, finding buyers and exiting for the absolute maximum that we possibly could. So it is an absolute pleasure to have him here with us to give us some valuable insights, tips, and tricks when it comes to building and eventually exiting your mobile app. So with that being said, Orel, give the people a brief introduction of yourself and what you do.
So first, thank you so much for a great introduction. Of course, I really appreciate that. A little bit about myself. Basically, I don't know if you know or if you remember, I started as a buyer by myself. I bought around 15 apps and games in the mobile industry. Then I sold around 90% of my own portfolio. And when I tried to sell my own apps and games, it was like a jungle outside. And this is how we started OEB.
Can you give us the largest deal that you've been a part of? Like, what was that dollar size?
So let's say that we've done a few deals in the 7 figures size. In the upper range of the 7 figures. Right now we're working on a few 8-figure size. So yeah, this is kind of the deals that we are doing.
Amazing. And how long have you been doing this, running OEB?
Like OEB, we're doing that from 2021. Basically, yeah, around 3 years, something like that.
Amazing. Amazing. I want to make it clear that all founders, whether you're an app founder, a SaaS founder, any type of business founder, this conversation is going to be extremely valuable to you because I think it's the end goal of any business owner is to eventually exit their company and realize all that value up front. And I think people will be shocked. You don't need an incredibly large business to have a successful exit. And truly, app founders at every stage can take this information, can learn from it, and learn how to prepare their business for an eventual exit as well, right? You don't have to be a large business to have a successful exit. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. And if you're asking me, I think that every business, especially in the digital businesses today, you need to build it to exit in some point because you will never know what is going to happen in the future. And it's always good to have like an exit route. Also, we are building our company to exit one day if you want so. Of course, today I don't want it. I don't want to do that. But we don't know what is going to happen in the future. It's always good to have another option on the table.
100%. And we had a conversation a little while ago, and you were talking to me about how frothy the industry is. There are buyers that you have connections with who are desperately looking to acquire mobile apps. Is that right?
Yeah, there are a lot of really active buyers that are seeking to buy great products, especially profitable assets. This is what we are doing. We are not selling any assets that are not profitable. Of course, there are some buyers for that, but they are not the active ones. They are not the hot buyers that you're looking for, the ones that you can play with them a little bit. But definitely there are a lot of buyers all around, and especially there are a lot of new buyers, especially in the last 2 years. I can see sometimes we can see sellers that became a new buyer that we didn't thought about it in the past. So yeah, stuff are happening all the time.
And what would you say like the minimum range for MRR would be? Like buyers are even interested in these smaller apps, correct?
Yeah, there are some buyers for the smaller apps. If you're asking me, I think that MRR it's a good metric. But if you're asking me, you need to look about the profit. And when I mean profit, I mean it's proceeds minus the UA. UA, of course, it's user acquisition. And also what kind of costs you have for the servers, for APIs, and stuff like that. And this is your profit. Of course, I'm talking about an asset deal and not a company deal because it's a different thing that we need to split that. But if you're asking me, like, what makes sense to you, like, to start to even think about selling something. So let's say that around $4,000 per month. Of course, we also saw some less than that, but if you're asking me if you want to achieve something that it's really can help you and can benefit you, this is what I was looking for.
Beautiful. And what kind of mobile apps in general are you seeing generate the most interest from buyers? Is there a specific niche? Is there a specific type of app? What are you seeing?
So this is this is the golden question that everyone are asking, because everyone want to go dig to these specific niches, right? In the end, it's a good question, but we also need to understand what the buyers are looking for and what they are good about it. For example, if I know how to do wellness really good, so I'm going to search for more wellness apps. But in general, if you're really asking me what to build from scratch today, I was building something that definitely can solve like a problem that is my users have a reason to come back to my app daily, not after 1 week, not after 1 month, daily. In the end, this kind of stuff are going to also to rank your app in the App Store or in Google really high, especially organic. This kind of stuff are really helping you without any budget. You just need to build a good product that actually solve a problem. Not only because I think it's a beautiful app. It needs to have great content and a great product.
So the user retention is huge for buyers.
Definitely. Especially with the AI tools that we can see today, that everyone are building apps in 5 minutes, and then they are thinking that they are going to do the next $1 million in 5 minutes exit. Unfortunately, this is not really the case. Especially because everyone are copy paste what they can see on the markets, and when they are seeing some great product on Sensor Tower. But in the end, you need to do a little bit more than that. Of course, you can build great products with AI, but I think it's not there yet that you can really complete the whole thing.
Exactly. If you can build it in 5 minutes with AI, why would the buyer purchase the business instead of building it themselves, right? Okay, and what are the different types of buyers that you see? Obviously, there's individual buyers, there's mobile app studios. What are all these different types of buyers? Who are the players in the space?
So there are a lot of different potential buyers, we can say that. And there are some roll-ups companies that are basically buying almost everything if it's profitable. There are some individuals that are basically, most of the individuals, they are coming not from a lot of money, or they made an exit before and now they want to build a new team and now they want to acquire something really big. So with individuals, it's not in the mid-range. It's all really low or really high. There's no mid-range with them. Like also there are a lot of publishers, also in apps, especially in games, by the way. In games, there is a crazy market right now. A lot of people are going to buy some games, but of course it's a different industry than the mobile apps. And of course there are some agencies that they are also buying some apps. Agencies, I mean, they can also be some marketing team that are specialized in ASO, specialized in ASA and stuff like that. And they are also buying some new apps because they know how to market them. And today I think that the main key here is to know how to monetize and to know how to market.
Yes, absolutely. And can you explain the difference between a publisher and just a full acquisition?
So basically, if you are doing like a full acquisition, like we've done with Pathfinder, for example, basically they're going to buy everything. They're going to buy the asset, they're going to buy the source code, they're also going to ask you what is the strategy that you have done, and then they're going to scale it if they have the ability for that, but basically this is what they're going to do. But basically they're going to buy everything, okay? And we also have a publishing deal, okay? In a publishing deal, you as the developer, you're going to do the development, you're going to do the maintenance, and then basically you're going to do some kind of a rev share, but the publisher is going to pay for the marketing, okay? So you're just going to put like a ballpark, and let's say that after a $10,000 profit per month, then every penny is going to be 50-50 with the publisher. But you are still going to work on the app, you are still going to maintain the app and everything. So it's not a full acquisition in the end. And most of the times after 1 year of this type of agreement, you guys are going to discuss if you want to keep this deal or not. If you're asking me, my personal opinion, I don't like the publisher's deal. I think that most of the times it's not really worth for the sellers. I prefer to just sell. You have like a period support for the buyers for around 1 month, maybe more, depending on the buyers, depending also on how much it's complicated asset. But then I leave them alone with the asset. I can focus on my new projects. And sometimes I think that sellers don't really appreciate how much time consuming it's to working on a new project. And right. The focus is the main key in your life, not only in this business, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I think the publishing, you're absolutely right. Like from my perspective, the publishing deal introduces a lot of risk. You're not getting that full acquisition, you're not getting cash out up front. And, you know, there is that possibility that the publisher that you're working with can't run your ads profitably. And maybe it's one of an error on their end, right? And you take the hit for that. So you let them have this trial period, so to speak, with your app. They're running ads, and if it's not profitable, there's no chance at having an acquisition down the line, and you kind of just burnt, you know, all that time. So
and you can't sell your app in this period,
right.
and you have another manager on top of your head. So I just prefer to just sell it. You can do whatever you want with my project. It's not my baby anymore. Go ahead. Good luck.
Yeah. Wow. That hits me right here in the heart too. When you let go of that project, you are letting go of your baby. That's kind of how I felt with Puff Count. As you know, I had it for such a long time, and it was hard to let go, but it was one of the best decisions that I made, because I was able to shift my focus to these new projects that I was working on, which is, you know, I think a big reason a lot of founders do decide to exit is they have something new that they want to work on.
Definitely. In the end, I think that we discussed about it a lot in terms of emotions, like if it's the right time for you to sell or not. I think that today you appreciate the decision and you can see the results. But definitely, I think that it's really hard to let go of your baby. But once you're doing that, I think that you have like a new world for you. Like I think it's something that's different, and you already make like a huge success, and then you have a new focus.
Yeah. So you're not only a broker, but you're also a therapist.
Yeah. Most of my job is to negotiate and also to be a therapist.
Yeah, a therapist. You're a master in psychology. If you had to boil down the most important key factors that determine an app's valuation, what would those be? What separates the 1x exit from the 12x exit?
So definitely, the first one is profit. You need to be focused on the profit. Second, retention. Retention is dramatically. I think that sometimes people only look about day 1, day 7, but it's also a question like what is your percentage of day 1, day percentage, and what happened in day 1. It's not only that they are going to return to your app, what they're actually doing, and then if you have the ability to optimize it or not. Third, I think it's also really important to understand where the users are came from. Like if it's tier 1 countries, if it's the US, if it's, I don't know, like Indonesia or stuff like that. Of course, for most of the buyers, tier 1 countries, especially the US, it's super dramatic. They're looking for this type of a crowd. And let's be honest, the US citizens, they are the most payroll people. They are the one who are going to pay for your app. If you are using like ads monetization, you can do worldwide. It doesn't really matter if it's a US or not. So again, depending. Also about a lot of people are talking about the growth potential. When I'm doing evaluation for my clients, a lot of them saying to me, yeah, but the valuation should be higher because there is a huge growth potential. The growth potential, it's nice, but it's not done yet. So the growth potential, it gives you the option to sell, but it doesn't matter that the valuations go much higher because of this potential. It's really important to understand. Like it's only give you the option to sell. So basically, if you're asking me, I will focus definitely about retention, daily active users, monthly active users. It's also important. Downloads from which countries, and in the end, your marketing results. Like if you're fully organic, sometimes people think that this is the best way to sell something, but fully organic, it's not always the best solution. Because if I'm a buyer and I want to market the app that I'm going to buy, right?
Sure.
And this app is full organic, okay? I don't have anything to compare to what is my abilities with my team. So sometimes I prefer to buy an app that already has some marketing, and then I can compare the results. So sometimes, like if you're asking me, 100% organic, it's not really the best solution.
Yeah, man, it's super interesting. I think back on my experience, you know, when I was exploring selling Puff Count, and there were different buyers out there, right? There were some who only cared about the organic metrics, and then there were some buyers who said, "Oh, you don't have enough paid ads data. We need to see more of that." So I think a lot of it does come down to the buyer. There are some people who just want a turnkey business, right? They want to acquire your organically growing asset. They want to do these small optimizations. They just want to make it that little bit more effective for them. that little bit more profitable, and that's a successful acquisition for them. And then there's companies like you mentioned who have paid acquisition teams in place, and that's where their specialty lies. So they want to see, you know, that consistent paid acquisition data too. So
you need to be in someone in the middle. Like you need to have like some kind of a normal conversion rate.
And you mentioned this concept of growth potential, and I think from a founder perspective, that is also one of the hardest kind of moments to recognize. Obviously, when the chart is vertical and it feels like it's never going to stop, right? Like almost like Bitcoin, you know, how many people actually sell at the very top, right? And what is the point that you should consider selling when that revenue chart, when that MRR chart is going vertical? How do you know as a founder, at what point should I exit this to maximize that?
The main thing is, first, you can't sell when you are on downtrend. A lot of people are they're thinking that it's going to be up all the time, but it's not. This is the reality, especially when you have such a strong competitors out there with a huge budget, that once they can see your uptrend like that you are like a rocket ship, but then they are going to put so much money on your keywords that you can disappear in I'm not going to say in a day, but in a really short period. So if you're asking me, like, once you can see that you are still on an uptrend, and you can see that for a while, but not too long. Like for example, you can see that for a few months, and then you can see, okay, now something is happening. Now the uptrend is not like that; it starts to be like that, a little bit less and a little bit less. Now you are a little bit after your peak, but it's still good to sell. Then you need to sell, because it's not always going to be like that.
Are there any specific red flags that you've seen that have instantly killed deals?
Yeah, wow, so many. I need to think like there is not only one for sure. First of all, it starts with the people behind the screens. This is why to be honest, I don't really like that people are trying to automate everything, especially deals. In the end, like when a buyer can see that the seller is not really serious, or maybe he's not that organized, or maybe he's going to hide something, and believe me, we can see that in 1 second. Okay, we are like people like me, that this is what we are doing every day, all day, especially from the buyer side. They can smell you. Okay, like it's really easy. So be honest, be organized. Don't try to hide anything, because this kind of stuff can kill your deal in really 1 second. Another thing about like more, let's say more metric stuff. If your retention is really bad, or maybe if your downtrend is like 30 or 40% less than the previous month, and you don't know how to explain that, something is wrong. And this stuff can kill the deal in really fast, because you need to know what happened in your business, right? We are calling that an app, but in the end it's a business. People sometimes don't really think like that, because they have so many apps in their portfolio, but in the end it's a business. People are going to buy your business, if you like it or not. And another thing that can kill your business, that can kill your deal, is if you are a really bad negotiator. It's a skill, okay? To be a good negotiator, it's a skill. You need to learn about it. You need to learn from that, from the field, from actually talking with people for a long time. Believe me, my first deal was really horrible when I tried to do it on my own businesses, not to advise to other people. We bought a lot of apps for our own. So definitely this kind of stuff can kill the deal, because in the end, people don't want to waste their time with people that are just going to roll out again and again and circle back. And maybe they are not serious, and maybe they just want, to try to fool them.
And I want to get into the negotiation tactics here in a little bit. I'm curious to hear some of these stories, and we have one ourselves. But I wanted to double tap on this one thing around, as a founder, being organized and also being quick. I think speed is a very important factor in getting a deal done. These buyers are looking at so many different deals, right? When they're hungry and they want to acquire an asset, they're not just looking at your asset, right? They're looking at multiple other apps, most likely. So, you know, being fast, being organized, presenting everything to them is very important. Is that correct?
Definitely. And also I think that a lot of sellers are thinking that the buyers are against them. But if you will think like you are going to collaborate with them and you are going to change your mindset, everything will be okay.
How do you go about finding buyers? You obviously have a massive Rolodex of these companies that you've worked with for a long time, but you know, in your initial stages, how did you go about building these relationships? How did you go about seeking out these buyers, and how did you build your network?
So basically, I treated my business as a real estate business. And I don't know if you learned real estate, like how we're doing it in like a brokerage in real estate. They are all knocking on doors. If you're a good broker, this is what you are going to do. Yeah, exactly like that. You are just going outside and you are knocking on someone's door and you try to build a relationship with him. And this is what we are doing. Right now we have more than 1,500 real buyers. And when I saying like real buyers, it's because we are also filtering them and we are having a meeting with them. I can say that I have probably more than 90% meetings with my buyers. Because I had a meeting with them, I built a relationship with them. I think that maybe more than 70% have my personal phone number, not one of my team members or something like that. Because in the end, when you are selling something and when you are buying something, you are buying a business. You need to have a good relationship with this guy, and then everything is working really fast. Because, for example, if I know that this buyer look for a specific app, or if he's looking for a specific metrics, I know exactly what he's looking for. I don't need to search, in the marketplace or something like that. I know exactly who wants and what he wants, and also. You need to remember that people are changing their business model all the time. In average, people changing their business model every 3 months. So for example, if let's say that I'm looking for an app to buy, okay? Today I'm looking to buy a video AI app. But maybe after 1 month I'm going to buy a puzzle game. But who can know what I'm actually going to buy, right? But if you have Orel as your friend, Orel is going to knock on your door every month, man, to ask you, hey man, what are you looking for? We have this now. But if you're looking for something new, okay, I will search for that. It's not a problem. We're looking for our buyers, like every day we have a system for that. It's not only me. We have an in-house marketing team. But of course, that in the end, they're jumping on a call with me.
Beautiful. There's always a new hot niche. You mentioned video AI apps. How hot are those?
Right now we're actually in a negotiation with a few AI videos apps. But you need to be a little bit special to sell this kind of stuff because there are so many, right?
But there are some big ones.
If you're building an AI app that it's covering only from APIs, so it's going to be a little bit problematic. But if you have a really good product, well designed, good user base, definitely you can sell it really fast. It's really the hot potato right now.
All right, man. Let's get into the negotiation, the tactics. Squeezing every last percentage point out of the deal. There are obviously different types of deals, right? And there are different types of ways that founders can exit their business. You can get all the cash up front. You can have an earnout. What are the different deal types? What do you see founders and buyers leaning more towards?
So first, of course, there is the cash deals that everyone I think that especially sellers prefer. Let's say that we are going to sell an app for $1 million, okay? The buyer is going to pay $1 million to escrow.com or any escrow service that you prefer, it's okay. Then basically the seller is going to transfer the app to the buyer account. Then the buyer is going to release around 70 to 80% of the funds. And then the seller is going to release the source code and the design and everything. And then the buyer is going to release the rest of the funds. It's my favorite deal because it's really simple and nothing can really happen, right? If you are using escrow and if you are using an honest buyer. You also have a revenue share that we are setting. Let's say that we are agree on a $1 million deal, and then if I'm the buyer and I'm going to scale the app, then you have another payments of $5,000, $10,000 depending on the results of the app. Why I don't really like that? Because then if I'm the seller, I'm basically depending on the buyer. And what if the buyer don't have a really good team? Or what happens if tomorrow the buyer is going, I don't know, to close his company? What happened with my team? Unless there is like a really unique case that the revenue share is really on my side, which most of the times it's not. You need to pay attention for the deal size, for the structure, how much time is the revenue share, if it's for 1 year, for 2 years. For example, I saw one buyer that he offered for us 5 years of revenue share. I told him for 5 years I can build this up 5 times. So why should I do it for 5 years? Like if it was like a really big deal for, I don't know, like $10 or $20 million, so okay, it's something different. As we also said before, there is a publishing deal. So basically, it's really similar to revenue share, only that you are need to be a part of the team. Most of them, they are not that success stories, so also you need to be really picky with the publisher that you are choosing. If you don't know if they are good or not, try to ask around, ask to see some case studies. Basically, I think that every second publisher is going to offer that because they don't want to put their money on your product. Why I really don't like the publishing deal? Because most of the times they are going to really push hard for the first 3 months, and after 3 months, when they can see that it's not really working, they are not really going to invest a lot. And then basically you lose.
Okay, so cool. So what I'm hearing is on a deal around $1 million or less, a full cash deal makes the most sense. Earnouts start to make more sense when you start to hit those much larger deals, like $10 million plus. The earnout makes a lot more sense. There's a lot more capital involved, and it's easier to get the deal done that way. Is that correct, generally?
Yeah.
So what's the biggest mistake that you've seen founders make during a negotiation?
Basically, they are too proud that something is wrong with the valuation, something is wrong with the buyer, and then if the buyer is not going to answer them after 2 days, they think that the buyer is going away or something like that, and then they are just going to do some unexpected stuff. So this is why I think that you need to be really to be relaxed first about in this deal. Don't use your emotions. You need to understand exactly what is the best for you, and you need to be smart. You don't need to be right sometimes.
I think that's why it's a no-brainer to work with a broker like yourself, because you have a process, and I think deals are the most successful when you have a structured process. You've done 1 million deals. You've seen 1 million deals in your day, right? So each phase of this, right? And your first time founder who's selling the business for the first time, they don't really understand the whole structured process behind it. But there are truly steps that you take as a broker, as I saw personally, where you go through each phase of the deal, it's calm, and you really get the full value of the deal through this process, right?
Yeah, definitely. And also I think that sometimes people need to know that they don't know what the other side thinks. Like we had in our case. I knew the buyer from before. I knew exactly what they are thinking, how we can play for our own goods, of course in an honest way, right? But in the end, it's a people business. It's not only digital. It's a people business, and people sometimes don't really understand that.
What are the kind of negotiation tactics that you use to get that extra couple percentage points out of the deal?
I think that the biggest thing that you can do for yourself in the negotiation process is to understand exactly what the other side looks for. For example, if I know that this specific buyer is really good with TikTok ads, okay, and when I'm going to tell him the story of the app that we are going to sell, I know exactly on which point I can push and which point I should not talk that much. And if he's going to ask me about the painful points, we know exactly how to tell the story, and also to give him the solutions, not only to tell him what's the problems of the app, because every app has its own problems, right? Every app is not a perfect app, but it's okay. You can solve everything. And also you need to think in advance what the buyer is going to ask you, so you can be prepared in advance.
Have you been in a scenario where multiple buyers want this specific asset and they're going back and forth? And how do you navigate those types of deals when there's multiple interested parties? What is your process for finding the highest price from one of those specific buyers? Is that what you go for? Do you go for the highest price, or are there other factors at play, like who the buyer is? What goes into effect?
So basically, yes, we are going to the highest price as possible, but if it's also with the best conditions. So for example, let's say that if this buyer is not, he's going to split the milestones to around 6 or 8 milestones, like payments, maybe it's not the best deal because we want liquid cash, right?
Sure.
But definitely we had a specific case that it was really something unique. I can share here. It was really a unique case when we sold the game, and it was like a hot potato. A few companies fight for this game. It was really like a struggle to relax everyone, because everyone really want the game really fast. And in the end, we succeed to sell it in a 500,000 more than what we listed the game. So it's not that usual, it's not that common, but it can happen, especially when you have like a cat dog, right? Like a cat fight. So it can happen, but you need to understand how to control each one of the buyers, and also you need to understand exactly what the terms of the deal. So you're not going, to lose the deal in the end, because it can also happen. But yeah, in the end, like most of the times, we are going with the highest prices possible. Sometimes I can say that I already saw some sellers that came to me after they tried to sell by themselves, and then I told them, you can see that the structure is really against you. Like sometimes I hear that some buyers are asking for some refund after a few months or something like that. How you can ask for a refund if it's a digital business that it's not really based on you, the seller, that you already sold it to him?
Right.
Like he needs to do his checks in the due diligence process, and it's depending on the buyer. You don't need to be, you can't really promise to him anything after the app is in his control.
So Orel, there are obviously different options when it comes to exiting a mobile app. You can work with a broker like yourself, or you can try, to do it on your own as a founder, right? There are marketplaces out there like Flippa and Acquire. What do you think are the pros and cons of putting your project, your mobile app, on a marketplace like one of those and searching for a buyer that way?
So basically, if you're going to work with the marketplaces, of course there are pros and cons. Like the pros, probably it's going to be cheaper. The cons, that you're going to handle everything by yourself. And I think that the main cons, that a lot of potential buyers are going to steal your data. They're going to waste your time. Basically, I tried by myself. Even if the commission is lower, you are based on your negotiation skills. So it doesn't mean that you're actually going to get the highest prices possible. So it's also important to use the right broker, okay? If you're asking me, and I think that I already proved it to you, that the most potential buyers in your network, it doesn't really mean that you're actually going to sell that. Of course, the marketplace have much more potential buyers than the brokers, but in the end, everything is about people behind the screens. It's about your network. As you know, network is your net worth, and I think this is the main point in the end.
I see it time and time again on social media too. People are using Acquire, they're using Flippa, they're using these marketplaces not to acquire apps, but to find out what's making the most money and find new ideas for apps that they want to replicate. So be wary, you know what I mean? Like, actually, you need to actually validate that these people have the funds and they're actually interested in purchasing your app, or they can waste a ton of your time, get on the phone with you, dig through all of your data, look at your code, look at your analytics, look at your P&L, and then at the end of the deal, like they're just not interested, right?
And the most important part, they're also going to take a look about your marketing strategy, and this is the crucial part.
And again, like one of the biggest, reasons that people go to these marketplaces is obviously there's a lot of buyers. They're all, again, potential buyers. There are a lot of window shoppers. But yeah, the commission is a little bit lower, but I want to double tap on something that Orel said. Even though if you're working with an advisor or a broker in your sale, the commission may be higher, but that advisor, that broker, will ultimately get you a higher purchase price, more likely than not. They're probably a better negotiator than you, unless you're some sort of wizard. But that higher price will more than cover the additional commission that you would be paying an advisor or a broker. And there's that extra layer of security, right? You know that you're in good hands, all the legalities, all the legal stuff is being handled, and these are trusted buyers that you can have faith in. So
definitely, and it's also important to find an honest broker that is actually going to be on your side and not on both sides. I heard about it lately. I don't want to say the names here, but I heard about some brokers that are going to represent both of the sides. I don't really like that, to be honest. I think it's not fair, especially when you need to represent one side, and then you're going to get a commission from one side, and you have a full interest, right? You need to be on the same boat. For example, I'm on the same boat with my clients, definitely.
So there are some brokers out there who their interests lie with the buyers.
Basically, they're not going to tell you that, but I know that this is what they're doing. They're going to tell you, okay, I'm going to represent you as the seller, but from background, they're also going to get some small commission from the buyers.
One of the most boring, maybe not the most exciting part of getting your app acquired or selling your business, but one of the most important parts. What kind of paperwork is involved when you're exiting a business? What's important to look for? Just generally, what's important on the legal side?
So on the legal side, it's really important to understand like when you're going to get your money. it's also important to understand what is the support period, and also what kind of support should they give you. Like, is it a hands-on? Is it only like a one meeting per week? It's really important to understand it, because some buyers, maybe they want you to have a full-time job and they don't want that. So you need to take a look in the agreement. Also, it's important to understand, like, if there are any refund clauses that the buyer are asking. I don't like that. I don't think it's fair in this business. But I think this is the most important part, to understand, like, how much time it takes for each milestone of the deal. As I mentioned before, most of the times it's only 2 milestones, 3 milestones, not more than that.
Okay, Orel. So when it comes to the buyers and the biggest players in the space, obviously we mentioned there are different types of buyers: individuals, publishers, studios, etc. Who has the deepest pockets? Who has the most money to spend on mobile apps? In the ideal world, what type of buyer are we going after to get the biggest exit possible?
So if you're really looking for, let's say, for the big funds, I have to say that it's less common, but you need to find a strategic buyer. Because if you're buying a strategic buyer, it's not going to look only about your P&L. It's going to take a look about how much you can make money from your own users, and also from your entire app. And when I mean from your entire app, it's also from your technology, from everything. Let's say that, for example, the roll-ups companies, they are going to pay you by multiple. The strategic buyer already know how to scale that. He already know how much your app is really worth, and in the end, it doesn't really care about the normal multiples in the market. Of course, it's not going to pay you something that that it's not making any sense, but it can pay you much more than the normal companies.
Got you.
A strategic buyer can also be your competitor. They can also offer you much more than you ever thought.
100%. They just want to get you out of the market.
Exactly.
Have you seen any PE firms come in and purchase apps?
Yeah, definitely, a lot. The main issue with them, it's not like a real issue, but let's say that my concern with them that they're a little bit slow most of the times. Because it's like, sometimes it's something that it's a little bit new for them. Sometimes they are coming from a different industry. For example, we saw some of them that came from, they bought a lot of Amazon stores in the past. They bought some Shopify apps and stuff like that. So they are still trying to understand exactly what the market multiples, what exactly they are looking for.
And you mentioned apps buying out their competitors. Have you seen one specific company come in and just sweep up a bunch of apps that were in their niche?
Yeah, we saw one company that did it in the past. It was like some kind of, if you remember, like there is the apps that are you can photo the flowers and everything, and then it's going to tell you what type of flower it is and stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
So one company, we saw that they bought a lot of them, especially in the beginning. They just bought around 15 apps of that. But you really need to ride on that trend. If you are finding something like that, it's amazing. You can sell it really fast.
So you've looked at hundreds, if not thousands of apps, and you've looked in, excruciating detail. You've looked at the P&Ls, you've looked at, the way the apps are structured. What apps are the most profitable? What are the hottest niches right now for mobile apps?
Right now, we can see a lot of AI apps, as I mentioned before. But if it's a good product, if it's not a good product, it's garbage. Sorry for that. But if it's a good product, so definitely they can earn really fast money. We saw some apps that are really generating money in their first month. We also like a lot of profitable apps there in the wellness or some in the terms of the niche of the life improvement. Sorry, I forgot about the word. If you're in the life improvement industry, definitely you can find really great products, but it's also really competitive. So if you're building something from scratch, you need to build something really unique, not only from AI. You need to build something unique, and you need to build a huge community behind it.
I'm curious to know, what's the quickest you've seen someone build and flip or exit a mobile app?
So I saw an app. It's not only that I sold it. We sold an app last year. I think it was only 4 months on the stores for $600,000.
That's insane. How did he grow? How did he double the profit? Was it viral social media?
No, actually only ASA.
No way. Apple
only
search ads.
ASA, man.
That is insane.
But it was because he really ride on the trend really fast. He was one of the first one in really niche AI apps.
So this developer, this seller, identified a trend, whipped up an app very quickly, and then just spent on Apple search ads.
Yeah.
To capitalize on that trend. That's crazy. When was this?
1.5 years, something like that, even less.
Are there any other like weird marketing tactics? Like we have all the standards, right? We have organic search, Apple search ads, we have paid ads, we have organic TikTok. Is there anything different? Is there anything being overlooked right now in terms of marketing mobile apps that you've seen?
If you're asking me, I think that TikTok ads are really crushing lately, and a lot of people don't really try that also in different countries, because everyone are really going to the US. But right now we sold a nice app that the TikTok ads wasn't in tier 1 countries, and it made a lot of money. Also from tier 3 countries. The main problem is that it's probably going to be a little bit harder to sell it, but you can generate a lot of money from that. Especially for the beginning, you can start to generating some money from tier 3 countries, and then once you have more money, you have more budget to marketing, and then you can switch to and you can pivot to tier 1 countries. Yeah, you can crush it, and we saw that, by the way.
It's not as competitive, obviously, in the non-tier 1 countries. Everyone's spending their marketing dollars in the tier 1 countries in the US, Canada, the UK. I actually just dropped a case study on like some language learning app, and they didn't do like any marketing in the US. It was all outside of the US, which is incredible. So, Orel, really appreciate the time. I want to give you, I have one final question for you. If you had to give one piece of advice, one solid piece of advice to a founder who is looking to build, scale, and exit their mobile apps, what would that piece of advice be? What should they be focusing on?
I think that you need to think as a buyer, and you need to really understand like what is the trend right now. If you can see that there is a lot of new apps right now, maybe there is something that you still have the chance to get in. You can find a trend, you can build it really fast, market it for 3 to 4 months, then try to sell it. Don't wait for 2 years or 3 years. Don't overthink about your product. Everything is okay, just execute. I think that execution is the main key, especially in the mobile apps. This is what I've done by myself. This is what I'm doing right now. Just execute and see what is the trends.
And where can the people find you?
So, of course, we have an active LinkedIn. We also have our website. I will link below. My phone number, everything that you want. We are always available, me or my team.
Awesome. And your website real quick is oebdigital.com. Give Orel a follow on LinkedIn as well. He's always posting insane value on LinkedIn. And if you're on Twitter, follow Orel on Twitter. Hit him up. Even if you're interested in exploring what an acquisition might look like, you don't have to have the biggest app in the world to have a successful exit. As we chatted about on this call, there are buyers for all different sizes of mobile apps. So give Orel a follow, learn something from him.
Free advice, why not?
Yeah.
Always happy to jump on a quick call with everyone, really.
Amazing.
My pleasure.
Who knows? You could be the next 7-figure exit under Orel's belt. He's done many of them, so he's the go-to guy. All right, amazing. Thank you so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, would appreciate a like, and we'll see you on the next one. Peace.